This is Jordan White, and this is my informative speech. For my informative speech, I'm doing it over the history and the evolution of the iPhone. What is one thing that most every person has in common today? That is that they own a cell phone. A predominant cell phone company is Apple. Apple produces the iPhone. The iPhone is sold nationwide and also worldwide at a phenomenal rate. Throughout this speech, we will look at the history and how the iPhone has came to be what it is today. To do this, we must first ask ourselves, how have they gotten there? They've gotten here through groundbreaking innovations and many improvements to each year's edition, which has got them ultimately to where they are today. To start, we're going to talk about the original iPhone. The original iPhone was released in 2007. It was introduced to the public by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was obviously the CEO of Apple. So when he introduced it, the iPhone had a screen size of 3.5 inches, which was rather large for the time. Nowadays it'd be small, but at the time it was big. And it had a 2 megapixel camera, which is a good camera for the time. Also, the phone was considered to be rather pricey, considering that it was $499 for only a 4 gigabyte phone and $599 for an 8 gigabyte. This is what people were afraid that the iPhone was they're afraid was not do well because of the price. So then we go to the next iPhone. The next iPhone to have a major change was the iPhone 4S. The iPhone 4S introduced Siri, which is the virtual assistant on your phone. So you talk to Siri, and Siri will respond and can do basic commands for you. So this was groundbreaking, as this was like the first phone to have something of this caliber on it. So that was released in 2011. And so then in 2013, the iPhone 5S and the 5C were released. The iPhone 5S was the first phone to have Touch ID. Touch ID being where you put your fingerprint on it and it simply gets you into your phone. And so then also the 5C was released at the same time. The 5C did not have the Touch ID. It was just the cheaper model of the 5S. The 5C was made of plastic and it came in bright and exorbitant colors. It was a cheaper option for people to be able to get a phone. So then in 2014, the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus came out. These phones were much different than their predecessors, as they were the first iPhones to increase in size. The iPhone 6 came in at 4.7 inches, and the iPhone 6 Plus was at 5.5 inches. So this was a rather incredible incredible screen size upgrade, as the original iPhone was only 3.5 inches. So, and then one of the big iPhone changes that happened was the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 was the first iPhone to have a full screen for the whole front. Most other phone had the Touch ID or the home button. The home button was removed on the iPhone 10 and was replaced by the Touch ID was replaced by the face scan. The face scan could simply just get you into your phone and do other things that the Touch ID could, but it was just scan your face. This phone was rather expensive when it was released, as it came in at $999. But also released with that phone was the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. The iPhone 8 Plus was much like the 7, except for the fact that it had a glass back. The glass back allowed the phone to be charged wirelessly, which is where you lay your phone on a wireless charging pad and it charges it. The iPhone 10 also had that. So, other than that, or whatever, other iPhones have had minor changes throughout the years, not just the major changes that taken place with this one. For example, the iPhone 7 was the first iPhone to have double speakers, as it removed the headphone jack from it. Also, the iPhone 3G was the first iPhone to go to 3G speed, which is incredible for the time. So other phones ultimately the other phones have minor changes, and they're not the major changes that these iPhones I've told you have. Apple has created a must for many phones or whatever. The must that they have created is the use of a touchscreen. Before, BlackBerry is a predominant phone. BlackBerry has a keypad. Once Apple came around, it basically forced phones to have a touchpad. Well, have to have a touchscreen instead of the touchpad. They've also came out with many groundbreaking innovations. Apple created an app store so that you could get apps for your phone. This was not on the other phones, and so the Android ultimately had to create a competitor for the App Store. According to Lifewire.com, 2 billion iPhones have been sold since 2007. That is pretty incredible, as that is a ton of phones, and a ton of money that Apple has made. Other facts that have gotten groundbreaking innovations have come from Computer World, as it has helped me to find better information on what actually has happened. As you can see here, this is the pictures of the iPhones. So as you can see in this one, that'd be the first iPhone. The first iPhone is simply its basic model. And you can see as you go through, as the iPhone 5S, that was the first one that had the Touch ID. And there you can see the 5C has its color. And then you can see the increase in size from the 6 and the 6 and 6 Plus from the previous models. And as you go up, you can continue to see them. And there you can see the iPhone 10 as it's got its full screen as it changes from that to that. As you go on, you can see. All in all, the iPhone has been able to change the world of the cell phone technology world, and has been able to create us to a spot where phones can, as we don't know what the future of the phones hold, as the simple innovations or the groundbreaking innovations that have been made today. Thank you for listening to my speech. That's it.